My name is Thomas Griffiths. I guess I've always known that I've had a stammer, and for as long as I can remember, really. I actually saw some video footage not too long ago of me as a child when I was about 3 or 4, and I was stammering in the footage, which is quite weird to see myself at that age, but it's kind of always been there. It's varied throughout my life. It was particularly bad when I was younger. I could have been my teenage years, but sometimes it will manifest itself as not being able to speak at all, so like a block. Then other times it can be a prolonged stammer. But then in more recent years, I'd say I've been more fluent than I have up until this point in my life. I'd say it's got easier in a way. I think as I've become more confident in myself, in my career as well, I find that I stammer less, which I assume is correlated. So I went to a Northern State school, and then when I was in sixth form college, a group of students from Cambridge University came to talk about getting more children from the north of England to go to Oxbridge, and I at that point realised I had the grades, and I applied to Cambridge, and I got in, and I studied social and political sciences, which is basically a kind of anthropology, sociology, psychology, and some politics. I could studying that and it being quite a broad topic. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do for work, but going to various career fairs at university, I spoke to some lawyers and I applied for a training contract at a law firm. And when you get a training contract, they pay for you to go to law school. So I got the training contract, then I did 2 years at law school in London, then went and did 2 years as a trainee lawyer at a law firm. So the first 2 years of my career, I worked for a law firm, and that was where I trained. After leaving the law firm, I went to a startup asset management firm and spent 7 years there. And while I was there, because it was a startup, it was very much a culture of you need to roll up your sleeves and do whatever needs doing. So I got a lot of exposure to different areas of law, to different types of work, but I was covering all over the world time zone wise. So I was doing a lot of long hours because I was doing Hong Kong and New York. And after that for 7 years, I decided I quite like to do something based in one time zone, so I wasn't working such long hours. So I went to a large asset manager. I was there 3 years before I joined Man this January just gone. And effectively what I do at Man is I'm a lawyer in the product legal team, which means I will negotiate investment management agreements. I will create investment funds for people to invest in, whether that be a pension scheme or an insurance company, or whether it be kind of you or me. It's a way for people to pool their money and invest and hopefully get a positive return from it. I think the highlight of my career so far is when I was in the role when I was at the startup, I got an asset manager. As I mentioned, I got to travel a lot, and I got to help open offices in Hong Kong, Singapore, in the States, in Switzerland. So I got to do a lot of international travel, which is very exciting. And I was heavily involved in the kind of setup in terms of creating investment funds in those jurisdictions for our clients, but also just in the day-to-day running of those offices. So I was involved in the finding of the office itself, finding the real estate, negotiating the lease for the real estate. I was involved in the employment contracts of the employees we had there. So I got a real insight into kind of how businesses operate in all these different jurisdictions, and that was an awful lot. I'd say you think it's worse than it really is. I think like when you're younger and you're more self-conscious, I suppose you constantly worry about what people will think about you. Whereas in reality, most people have other things going in their lives and they're not focusing on how fluent or not fluent you are. And it's very easy to think that you're being judged by other people, which kind of in reality just isn't the case. And I wish I'd realised that earlier, because there are opportunities which I probably missed because I didn't put myself forward or I was scared, which now that I'm slightly older and I've had more experience, I kind of realise that I shouldn't have held myself back, because if you stammer for 10, 15 seconds on a word, or even if you have a horrible time and you can't get your words out, no one really cares. It's you who cares the most about it. The thing, like, you think that people will have kind of negative response, and most people try their best to be helpful, to be kind, and you might leave that situation and think about it and think, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't stood in that situation. Like, no one else the rest of their day is thinking about that. It's just you.
Exactly what you